Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and we are here to give you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We're looking for those new ways of living because, as I've said hundreds of times, maybe thousands, the old ways don't work. Just look around. Just look around. They're not working. We have to find those new ways. Now, there will be some who say, well, but the new ways are the old ways. Well, how far back you want to go? We're going to talk about an interesting aspect to this that has sort of befuddled me over the decades, even as a teenager. My first thought of, and again, these are just observations. I'm not making a blanket statement here, but my observations watching my father and as my sisters grew up, my elder sisters in particular, I began to notice that capitalism was flawed. There was something wrong with it. And here's the reason I came to that observation. My father worked for probably 40 years, but in a couple of different occupations. But one of them, he was there for maybe 20, 25 years until the company decided they were going to move to Utah. My father did not want to move the family to Utah. So, but while he was there, I'd like to think, and I don't know this, that over the course of years, he would get an increase in salary to help, support what he was doing with his family and so forth. Well, when you ask for an increase in your wage or salary, however you're getting compensated, and they give it to you, where do they get that extra to give it to you? Well, they have to raise the costs of products and services, or they have to cut costs of their own products and services, if you will. Odds are they're not going to do that because they need that infrastructure to maintain their business. So they've got to raise the prices. All right. A couple of years go by and you come back and say, hey, I'd like a little more. Same process. I want a little more. Same process. Kind of like what's happening across this country with the minimum wage. It's going up. Well, where are they going to get the money to pay that? And eventually you can't afford. I mean, people are struggling. The whole thing. My father was the sole breadwinner for quite a long time until my mother chose, as far as I know, not out of necessity, to go back to work as a nurse. She was trained. She went to college for nursing. And so as far as I know, we were middle class, grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, beautiful home, three bedroom, 1 bath, 8 people. Figure that one out. And we survived. And here I am today. And now I'm one of those who requires, unfortunately, I might say, a 2-paycheck household. So that's just one of the dynamics. And I'm going, wait a minute, this isn't sustainable. You can't keep this up indefinitely. And now we're seeing the outgrowths. What was it? The unions across the country are starting to rise up and say, hey, we want more. Well, great, you want more. What if everybody wants more, then the prices of everything start to go up. The costs have to come from the payments have to come from somewhere. Well, I have a feeling that our guest today is going to help us to maybe realign my observations, which would be nice. Hey, I consider my observations to be straw houses. You want to burn them down? Please, let's burn them down and start over. My very special guest here on the program is the author of Church of Profitsea. That's Profitsea. It is a new trinity, happy, healthy, and wealthy. It came out, of course, back in 2017, but as relevant then as it is today. And our special guest today is sharing with us these insights. Her name is Karen Seeley. Karen Seeley. And she is of the Church of Profitsea and churchofprofitsea.com, which will be linked to. Karen, thank you so much. And by the way, I wish they'd come up with a different name for some of the videos I've seen on YouTube where they say, okay, now watch this Karen go berserk over nothing. So you know what I'm saying? And of course, the male version of that is Kevin. I'm glad I'm not named Kevin. Hey, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Richard.
Well, now I'm curious as to what you think of my observation. I was 15, 16 years of age watching, knowing that I was going to be entering that world, and I did. And here I am today. I'm still alive despite, my observations of what I think. Is that a fair observation or have I missed something?
And that's one way of looking at the world,
Okay.
and that's all it is. Our perception is reality.
Ah,
Uh,
okay.
I am a firm believer and have been for a long, long time. It took me a long time to write this book and to come out. As a matter of fact, the Church of Prophecy has several iterations since it first started.
Hmm.
My passion is for waking people up to the fact that they are responsible.
Oh, how dare you?
Right.
Continue, please.
I just have, I know the universal laws.
Hmm.
And I know that when we are working with the universal laws, we will be in accordance with our true purpose, our higher purpose. Um, I have never, and I've worked for a paycheck for many, many years.
Hmm.
I didn't. Well, I'm still. There's nothing wrong with getting a paycheck.
No, no,
It's
no, no.
just it's just that you have to recognize in your mind that you have set the bar. You have set the bar for how much you're worth.
Mm.
And that's a universal principle. It's called the most powerful law in the universe is the law of attraction.
Aha.
And that's all about, this goes back to our founding forefathers, um, Adam Smith. When Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations, 1776, right? The two major ideas in that book are one, a free marketplace, and two, the invisible hand. Now,
Mm.
when I say I
Mm.
believe in universal laws, I know that there are universal laws that run this universe, and we either are aligned with them or we are not. And those universal laws in Jeremiah 31:33 says, I have placed my law in your mind and written it in your heart. Now, the scary thing about that is that most people are fundamentalists and they aren't looking at laws, they're looking at the word. Okay, the word of God. It's not, the word is very powerful. And since we are physical extensions of our source energy in this world, our words are very powerful. But it's the law.
Hmm.
It's the law that is constantly working. And that law is aligning our head with our heart.
Mm.
When you are doing what you love, truly, when you're doing what you love, you're going to be successful. It's the law.
Okay.
Now, there's a catch to this,
Uh-oh.
Richard. That,
Uh-oh.
yeah. And I can't stress this enough. All right. Let me. The catch to this is that I believe, well, okay, it's Luke 9:62.
Hmm.
It says, no man who has put his hand to the plow and looking back is fit for the kingdom of God. How many times do we keep looking back?
Hmm.
We keep telling the old story of about how hard it was.
Yeah.
Actually, the past, our worthiness, our worthiness is not a gift. It's who we are. It's who we are. And our worthiness is not in the past.
Mm-hmm.
That's gone. Gone,
Oh.
gone, gone. Not there. And there's no forgiveness even needed. It's in the past. It's gone. It is done.
So you're telling me
And
there's no rear view mirror here.
well, unfortunately, there is a rear view mirror, and it's a reason why people are so unhappy.
But in terms of utilizing the universal law, there is no rear view mirror.
There's no rear view. You cannot look back.
Yeah.
And every time you do, you drag the past into the present, and you continue to lead the past.
So
Things don't change.
what you're saying is that if I sit here and I say, oh, hey, here I am today, and oh, I'm doing what I love doing, and da 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 da, and I would really love to have more. And when I look back on the challenges that I have hit, as the moment I say, and when I look back at all of the financial challenges that I've been through, and yet I'm still here. I thought I was going to die back then. I've already, in a manner of speaking, I have blocked the law of
Yes,
attraction.
that's exactly right. That's
Thank you.
exactly
I
what I'm
won't say
saying.
that anymore. But
I mean,
you've
it's
raised some very interesting points already. And what is the and again I've read the Bible, Old and New, a couple, three, four times, and I sometimes don't remember exactly where some of these fall. But isn't there a passage in there, especially when it comes to working, that an individual is what is it, worthy of his labor, something along those lines, where he will receive just compensation for his
yes,
labor.
yes,
I paraphrase.
always will,
I'm not King
always will,
Jimmy, so I.
without worrying about it.
Mhm.
All right, let's talk about Einstein. Einstein is my hero.
Ah, yes.
I was born on Einstein's birthday, and
Ah.
I absolutely love him. He's with me today. We are star-crossed lovers. He's really my soulmate. But he said, oh, everything's energy. All right,
Mhm,
everything is
mhm.
energy. He said, match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality.
Mm.
All right. The frequency is our thoughts. It has nothing to do with the words we're speaking, because how many people do you know say things they don't believe? Say
Mhm.
things that aren't true. Okay. It's
Oh, I
not
know a
about our
few.
words.
I know a few.
It's about what we really believe. That's our frequency that we're putting out into the universe. What do you really believe? And I'm going to say something that might upset a few people.
Uh-oh.
The frequency of victims and victimizers,
Mhm.
the same frequency.
Mhm.
It's the matching frequency. The victim will always find the victimizer, and vice versa. They are soulmates. Okay.
Yeah.
They
Well,
are hooked.
yeah. You said something earlier too, and it's amazing. Earlier, we've only just begun here. The most vile, despised, foul word that, and then again, I learned this in those 15 years back in the 80s and early 90s, that you could utter when it came to even what you're talking about, but it would go beyond that. That word you've already uttered, that is I don't know how you'd make it into a 4-letter word, but the word is responsibility.
Mhm.
And that was one of the things that I learned early on. I even went through programs, personal growth programs. One of them, the first one I went through, was called was called LifeSpring. Now, it was an outgrowth of Est, but it had a lot of very good things to talk about, to share, and to educate us about. And that was this aspect of victimhood. And that's what we were going through back in the 80s and probably into the early 90s, when we moved from there to the philosophy, if you will, the social, if you will, philosophy of codependency. And of course, as I continued to educate myself, I began to learn about what was interdependency. But somehow, some way, the philosophy of victimhood reared its ugly head on the national scene officially, once again in the 21st century, in June of 2015. And I'm going, wait a minute. I'm not a victim. I'm responsible. Where I am, I take responsibility for where I am, whether it's, passing judgment, good or bad. It's on me. It's not on anybody else. They didn't do it to me. I also use this phrase, and I would love to talk about this more, and that is, I use the phrase, words have power. We had a governor who was the only impeached governor of the state of Arizona who brought up the picadillos, if you will, of his not running mate, his opposition, if you will, to the governor's seat, and the information that he was disseminating, though the information was true, except that in reference to it, it had happened 10 or 12 years earlier and had been resolved. There, in other words, it was a court case, and it had been resolved in the courts. But this candidate chose to do this, and I would make some bones about it, and people would say, "Richard, you are so naive. It's only politics."
Politics.
And I said, no, it's not. There is an intent there. There is a reason why this is being brought up, and the intent is so that this person who's bringing this up can acquire something. In this case, it was an elective office, which he did. But then karma caught up with him, and boom, the next thing you know, he's being impeached, and he was ousted. And that's kind of what I'm seeing today from the official, unofficial return of victimhood. I keep telling people we're where we are because of us, not because of them. We did this to us. If there's something wrong, is what I like to look for the beauty. I like to look for the positive. And now I'm now looking forward. I'm not looking back. I'm taking out the rearview mirror. Okay. I often, when I use that phrase that I did earlier about, looking for those new ways of living, it doesn't mean that this is an awful, icky, terrible place. It's not. I live in Santa Barbara, my Lord. And I've lived here for 18 years. And I've been living, in a manner of speaking, from paycheck to paycheck for the most part, but there have been some other wonderful things that have happened along the way. But I'm living here.
Give us this day our daily bread. That's it. That's all we're promised.
That's right. But isn't that interesting? And I also go to and I wish I could remember it was the Sermon on the Mount, but he was talking to his disciples who were all worried about, what am I going to eat? What am I going to wear? Where am I going to lay my head tonight? Da, 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 da. And he says, do you see the birds? Do you see the birds in the trees? They don't toil, and yet, guess what? They're taken care of. How much more does your Father love you that you don't need to worry? All of your needs will be cared for. I hear this phrase, Karen, many, many times from people who are very, I'm going to put it in a very positive light here, who are very pro-America. They look back and they say, oh yeah, we were founded on Judeo-Christian ethics and so on and so forth, and God has ordained, and this Constitution is as sacred as the Bible, and so on and so forth. And again, I'm not being disparaging of that. I'm just saying that they have this almost reverence, right? That's great if that's where you're at. But yet, if that's the case, then why aren't you understanding that you don't care? Who was it? Not Mark Twain. Will Rogers said you can take economists and lay them end to end, and they'll still point in all different directions. So then I would ask the question, economists, what numbers would make you happy? There are no numbers that'll make them happy, because if numbers are good, then they're looking and going, and of course, we're going to have a downturn. And if numbers are bad, oh, it's going to get even worse. It's like, and that's one of the pillars of the Trinity. of Profitsea is happiness. They even put in
Happy,
the Constitution,
healthy.
life, liberty,
Yes.
and the pursuit of happiness.
The Trinity, you can't have one. You can't have one and not the other. You can't have two and not the other, because the Trinity makes up the whole thing.
Right.
And that is mind, body, spirit, happiness, health, and wealth. And when I talk about wealth, I'm talking about the unshakable faith that everything is working out for me. And when you talk about victims and victimizers, when I talk about victims and victimizers, the Church of Prophecy is really for entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs are the risk takers. They're the barrier breakers. They're the trailblazers. They are leading us to the true land of milk and honey. Now you've got the victims who tend to look for their savior outside of themselves. That's when the religion of social and moral values, which is one of Einstein's evolution of religion things, he talks about the religion of social and moral values.
Yeah.
That begins to mingle with politics. And today, more people are putting their faith in a government they believe will do for them what they cannot do for themselves. That this faith is so misplaced, it's going to come back and bite them in the ass.
Yeah. You know that 24 years ago, during that particular cycle, presidential cycle, I was watching a speech by the then candidate for the Democratic candidate, Al Gore. And he first started out by talking about how, talking about what we as the citizens of this country can do. I mean, we can do this and this and this and this and this. And then a little pause. He said, and here's what the government's going to do for you. And I turned it off. And I even go back to a statement that was made during the Carter-Reagan campaign. The question was put to America, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? And I thought, well, if you're implying that if I say yes, then it's because of what you folks have done, and if I say no, it's because of what you folks have done, you're wrong. If I want to use that term, better off today than I was 4 years ago, it's all on me. It's all on me. It has nothing to do with you. Ergo, your question is irrelevant to me. Again, that's once again, the rear view mirror is up, right?
I am responsible.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line.
Do you have people who have trouble with that when you say that? They cringe. They say, "Oh, come on. No, good things happen, it's God. Bad things happen, it's the devil."
Yeah. No, I don't have a problem that people don't appreciate my views.
Okay.
Because I truly don't care what they think. Maybe it comes with age. I don't know. I don't care what they think.
I've heard that.
I got the mission from the church, for the Church of Prophecy. I got the mission statement from a 2006 banker who won the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, that's amazing in itself that a banker has won the Peace Prize. But it's all about entrepreneurship. And here is his quote. He said, "Charity is not an answer to poverty. It only helps poverty to continue. It creates dependency and takes away people's initiative to break through the wall of poverty. The unleashing of energy and creativity in each human being is the answer to poverty." Unleashing creativity and energy, that's the whole mission of the Church of Prophecy. Unleashing energy and creativity in the lives of individuals for the purpose of increasing opportunities for wealth and well-being in the world. It's only entrepreneurs that's going to make this happen. It's not people sitting back and trying to run the world from a place of need.
Right. Or even to take it even further, a place of lack. I don't have enough. I don't have enough. By the way, that quote that you read, if I have the name correct, Mohammed Yunus I think that's how his
Yunus,
last name is pronounced.
Yunus,
Yeah.
Yunus,
Yeah.
Muhammad Yunus.
Yunus.
He's
Okay.
the banker.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, as you're saying, this is what the Church of Prophecy is all about, not just trusting in the laws of the universe, but unleashing the energy and creativity in those souls that hunger for a better way of life. Now, we're going to talk about that as we continue talking with our very special guest here on the program. Her name is Karen Seeley, and she has a wonderful, you're going to want to get a copy of this. By the way, is it available yet in Audible?
It's on Amazon.com. I don't think it's on Audible.
All right. Well, we'll have to talk about fixing that one. Church of Prophecy. It's a new Trinity: health, wealth, healthy. Just let me try that one again. The Trinity is happy, healthy, and wealthy. As we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, and we are talking with Karen Seeley. She has this wonderful book. You're going to want to get a copy of it, and we're going to give you also the website where you can go to find out more about her and about the church and genuflect when you go there. Churchofprophecy.com is the website, and we are so grateful for you being with us here today. And one of the things that I find so fascinating when I do listen to, and again, I couldn't agree with you more. It is a little on the frustrating side, and maybe that's where I've got to sort of, put the blinders on and say, you know what, it doesn't matter what they are doing or saying. But when I hear about the corporations, they are not entrepreneurs. Now, maybe when the beginnings of that corporation, it became one, was started by an immigrant who came over here, let's just say on the boat coming through Ellis Island. They started their small little business, mom and pop, i.e. entrepreneurial venture in Little Ireland, Little Italy, Little China, whatever nationality, because back then they kind of did hang together. But then it grew and grew and grew and grew until it became what it is today, a multinational, multi-billion or trillion dollar, whatever. And somehow they have lost, shall we say, the vision of the founder, that immigrant who came over with his family, and they've turned it into something it was never intended to be. So then I'm wondering if, because the pyramid's upside down, the pyramid should be point down, not point up. And the highest pay should not be going to the guy at the top. It should be going to all of the, I don't want to put it this way, little people at the bottom, because they're the ones that are actually doing the work to facilitate the continuation of the company.
All right, Richard, let me
please
interject something here about pyramid.
Okay.
Because that's one of the iterations that the Church of Prophecy is going through. It's still evolving. I see every individual as their own profit center. In other words, they are the pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
They are the Trinity.
Okay.
That's who they are. And they have the power within them to be, do, and have whatever they want. A lot of people working for a paycheck in a large corporation are doing so because it's fulfilling their purpose in life. Now, their purpose may be to go out and win the triathlon, but this paycheck that they're getting for their 40 hours a week is enabling them to do what they really love. You know, this is all about working together. I can't stress enough that the Church of Prophecy is about shining the light on each individual as their own personal profit center, and which is the same interest that the founding fathers had for this country.
Okay.
We are all seeking our own personal goals, which means selfish goals. And I'm sorry, there can be no other way to say it. Selfish is not a dirty word
Okay.
any more than money is, because we are all seeking our own personal selfish goals. We're sovereign individuals. No one else can set our goals or achieve them for us. We are doing that ourselves. And there is not a soul on this planet that does not have access to the source of all there is. And that's where I'm coming from. Everyone,
Mm-hmm.
everyone. I turned myself into a $25,000 a year paycheck into $150,000 a year earnings
Mm-hmm.
over a 10-year period. This has not happened overnight,
Mm-hmm.
but this is what I did by staying true to myself. To thine own self be true. And if
So,
you can dream it and believe it, Source has the wherewithal to deliver it. But this is
so,
all about belief.
yeah. So, first of all, you have just set ablaze another one of another one of my straw huts, which is, as I said before, just fine. Because really what you're saying, not just to me, but also to our listeners, is let go of the observations and or opinions of whatever is outside of you, because it's irrelevant for you or for me, because it only blocks the law of attraction. It only gets in the way of my ability to create. We are all in this together. And as you have already well stated, you don't want anyone any more than I want anyone left behind. We want to, it's like I said before about this whole business of the new ways of living, so that it's a better place for everyone. And I even have to drop the preface on that, not just a select few. It's for everyone. And because when I say not just a select few, I'm suddenly looking in the rearview mirror once again. Boy, this really gets into watching our P's and Q's, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, when it comes to speaking or even thinking, because again, those words have power, right?
Yes, they do.
Wow.
I'm a firm believer that my words only have power when I'm aligned with my soul. The head and the heart are together. The words I speak then have a lot of power.
Hmm.
But when I'm only coming from the ego, my small mind, um, and I'm coming from a place of greed instead of knowing the universe is limitless and I can have anything I want.
Mm-hmm.
A greedy person does not know this. You know, a
Yeah.
greedy person thinks that there is a finite
Yeah.
resources out there
Yeah.
and they've got to get theirs before somebody else gets it.
I'm
And
sure you've heard the phrase that the person who dies with the most toys wins.
yeah,
And you can change the word toys for pretty much anything.
yeah, and you've also heard you can't take it with you.
That's true. Although Steve Martin back in the 70s on his comedy album said, they say you can't take it with you. I'm taking it with me. But that's not true. My father, my late father, who passed away in March of last year, he used to say, eat, drink, and be merry in moderation, because nobody gets out of this world alive.
Right.
And
There is no such thing as death, Richard.
I would agree.
All
But
right, let me
sure, go ahead.
just put this in here because this is the most important piece of the Church of Prophecy and being happy, healthy, and wealthy. Okay, it's about daily meditation.
Ah,
Okay, this is called getting in touch with your soul. All right, now my soul is my biggest fan. My soul wants only the best for me.
mm-hmm,
And when I listen to my heart, and my heart, when I listen, my soul speaks to me through emotions, energy, and motion. Get that?
mm-hmm. Love it.
Emotion,
I
energy,
love it.
and motion. That vibrant vibration, frequency of love, joy, passion, that is it when you are there, when you're in that frequency, you will never take a wrong turn. You are an eternal vibrational being. And this was proven as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I believe quantum physics is proving the existence of God. But Max Planck, the father of quantum physics, he took the Nobel Prize 125 years ago when he told the world there's no such thing as matter. Matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together.
Mm.
He said, we must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. And this mind is the matrix of all matter. And that right there tells me there is no separation between spirit and matter. There's no separation.
Mm-hmm.
People are pulling back from things because they want to be spiritual. That's not the point of spirituality. The spirituality is to create the things. Let's create joy, let's create happiness, let's create sustainable communities, let's create wonderful imaginable things. Why not? When we can.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, but I can also attest to the fact that I am I am as responsible for where I am and my mindset and all of those things, many of the things that I have shared here on this program over the years that have kept me from achieving the things that I think I should have achieved by now with almost 45 years in this career, which my father also said, Richard, find something you love doing because you're going to be doing it for a long time. Don't get stuck like me, which, by the way, he did not stay stuck. He went to junior college, got his computer programming degree, and so forth. I love what I do, whether it's conversing, having these conversations with people such as yourself, doing production, doing programs that I do for radio stations that I've worked for over the years, you know, all of the different elements therein. And I've even posed that question to some of the guests I've had on dealing with, you know, the law of attraction and so forth, and saying, why is it that I've got this giant toolbox? I mean, I got to put it on a tow hitch on the back of my car just to move it around with all of the tools that I've accumulated over the years. And yet I'm not making the six figures, which I really wish I was. I wish I could figure out how to break that, you know, break through and so forth. But at the same time, when I let that go and I'm here with you, or I'm sitting there doing the editing of things and so forth and production and on and on and on, I don't even think about that stuff. I don't even think about that mindset anymore. It's like it goes away. I have, so to speak, blocked it while I am, shall we say, in the zone. Is that one of the things that we need to learn to, and that is focus our attention, our mind, body, and soul, if you will, on what it is that we love doing. And is it really true? Because the metaphysicians that I have known over the years, the spiritualists and so on and so forth, talk about how do what you love and the money will come. Well, there is truth to that because, again, I'm here now. I've been able to sustain my life and I've been eating and drinking and sleeping and I've got a roof over my head and so on and so forth. I go through the gratefulness list, you know, you know, but I still don't have that 5 or 6 or even 7 digit, you know, 7-figure bank account.
It's the big butt.
Yeah.
It's the big butt.
Yeah.
And it's because our focus is on the bank account instead of on what we love.
Mm.
And you just said it. You know, when you're doing what you love, you're not thinking about that bank account. But then, oh my goodness, you have 30 seconds. Let's look and say, why am I not making as much as I used or as I want to make?
Right, right,
Where
right.
is the focus? Everything is about focus.
Mm-hmm.
Faith, focus, and freedom. And the bottom line here is freedom. Because when we are doing what we love, nothing is more free than that.
You know, I also have the sense of freedom, that same sense of freedom that you just described, when I am not in the proverbial studio. For example, yesterday, as of this conversation, I was out with my battery powered chainsaw cutting apart an oak tree that had fallen last year because of all of the storms that we had had, and the soil was loose and the tree fell over, and of course it's dead. But I'm cutting it up for the purposes of firewood. Uh, and I'm out there and I'm doing this, and of course my biggest concern while I'm out there is making sure that when I'm cutting branches that maybe are over my head, I do it in such a way that it doesn't fall on me. So in other words, I'm being careful, but at the same time, I love being outside. I love doing this kind of work. And sometimes even when it's just splitting the wood and so forth and so on, it's it's really a wonderful place to be out in nature. Talk to me about that connection with nature and how that helps us when we are connected to better understand this, which you're speaking of from the Church of Profitsea, about the law of attraction and all of the other universal laws.
Well, it's all about nature. Uh, from the tiniest, minutest atom to the universe, the microcosm of the macrocosm. This is a platitude. It's not a platitude. A lot of people think it's a platitude. We are all one,
Mm-hmm.
right? If those people really understood the power of that truth, the new heaven and the new earth would be instantaneous. But since no one's going to be left behind, Richard, this time-space reality was created to give everyone a chance to wake up to that fact.
Mm.
We are one with the universe, with the ground, with the earth, with the air, with the seas, with our soul. We're one. And what can I tell you? I'm the Church of Prophecy is still evolving, but I really see it being a strong force in the world, not just this country, in the world, to pulling people together to the fact, helping them realize we're supporting each other.
Yeah.
We are all supporting each other. That's what we're here for.
It's funny. I watched a news story about 8 or 9 years ago out of Texas. Some entrepreneurs, interestingly enough, who were sort of asked the question how they were able to do what they've done and make their business successful and so forth. And they would start out by saying, "Well, I did it. I did it all by myself." And I'm going, "You're out of your mind. You didn't do it all by yourself." Because you're discounting the role of the customer, who is the one that comes in and buys your product or your service and keeps you going. Your vendors, who provide you with the materials to provide the product or service, et cetera, including if you're in a brick and mortar, the construction company that built the brick and mortar that you're working out of. And again, the list goes on. And I've said this on this program dozens of times. I am only here talking to you today, Karen Seeley, because of I would say literally thousands of people who have helped me, supported me, encouraged me, and sometimes just sent me anonymously energetic support. I didn't get here on my own. I had to do the work. That I can certainly be grateful that I had the happiness, the health, and sufficient wealth, excuse me, to do all of those things. But it's just as you said, and we're responsible, yes. But do you think too that that's kind of where we've sort of missed the boat, especially in this country, because on the one hand, yes, the government has said blah, 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 and we have forgotten it is not up to the government. Yes, render unto Caesar what is Caesar, and unto God what is God's. At the same time, what are you doing with your life? And I wonder how your observations on this. You remember when Jesus told his disciples when they queried him about the miracles he was doing, and could you teach us? That's just so cool, you know. I mean, if they'd had a circular saw, it would have been amazing. But can you teach us how to do these things, like turning water into wine and raising the dead? Really? Sure, I can show you, but let me tell you something. This is nothing compared to the stuff you guys are going to do. And I honestly believe, Karen, that greater work that he talked about has to do with the transforming of our lives.
And the renewing of our minds.
Mm-hmm. Renewing. What does that mean? Tell us what that means.
It's a new way of looking at the world.
Oh my, no, the old way.
Goodness.
But it's so good. I like the old way. It's comfortable. Is that what keeps us from the quote unquote renewing our mind, is that we become complacent, we become comfortable?
And yes, our comfort, and we're all going to die. And then we're going to come back again, knowing what we should have known before we died, but we're going to come back again.
Mm-hmm.
And Max Planck said that too. I love his quote about that. We aren't convincing anybody of anything. What happens is the people who refuse to know are going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And then the new ones are being born who are familiar with it. And there are, 30 years ago, when I first started my spiritual, God, it was longer than that. It was 47 years ago when I started on my spiritual journey. Channeling, if you had mentioned channeling 47 years ago, you would have been burned at the stake. Now they're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. And some of the most powerful books that I've read were channeled.
Yeah.
A Course in Miracles was the first one that rocked my world. A Course in Miracles, that's channeled. And for the last 20 years, I've been reading Abraham Hicks' Teachings of Abraham, Ask and It Is Given. What a powerful book that is. It's channeled, and we are all channels. We're all channeling our source energy, our soul, when we're listening, when we're paying attention. When we open our mouth, the words that come out are channeled.
When I feel a little bit discouraged, and this is since my father's passing, I start talking out loud to myself. And the words that are coming out, I'm going, where did that come from? And at present, I attribute those words coming out of me as coming from my father. He's just, because he in the last, I would say maybe 30 or 40 years, but he did beforehand, but more so as I have grown, married once, then divorced and married again, he would always not only tell me that he loved me, but that he was proud of me for what I had accomplished up to that point and so forth. There was never, from that conversation, if you will, or that part of the conversation, there was never any discouraging words coming from my father. And I know he did that with the other kids too. So I couldn't agree with you more. There are moments when I kind of feel that way, just in general, even sometimes in these conversations. One of the attributes that we try to get rid of in broadcasting is the ahs, the ums, and so forth. And I try to replace them, even if this isn't as appropriate, but it's better than the ahs and the ums. Silence. Just, okay, go ahead and let the words come out. And the pause is okay, because it's not 2 minutes. 2 seconds, 3 seconds is not a big deal. It's like when I've asked the three final questions that I will be asking you, that I've asked all of my guests. I will get, here's question one, and then there's this long 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-second pause because I've had this comment. Oh, you always have save the hard questions for the end, don't you? Sort of. But then they have to begin the process of sort of channeling the answer through themselves, and maybe it comes from themselves. But that's one of the things that I have found as I listen back to some of the interviews, and I'm going, there wasn't a single or in that whole program. Or there are other interviews where there were a few, and it's no big deal. It's just one of those observations of mine. How do we begin the process? And I haven't made reference to it on this program yet. Normally I put all of that at the front of the program. How do we begin the process of connecting with, shall we say, the divine, God? Is it through, as you mentioned at the front end of the program, the meditation, going into that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listening to, quote unquote, that still small voice?
Are you asking me that?
I am asking you that.
Okay. Meditation is just one way. And for me, it is an essential way. If you can spend on a regular basis 15 minutes first thing in the morning, it's even greater if you can take it up to 20 or 30. If you can do that, you're on your way. But when you really know who you are, which I feel like I know who I am because of my meditation, I can go anywhere. I can go anywhere and spread the light and love that is my source energy. That's what source energy is, light and love. That's all it is. And I try. Don't like to try. I try, though, to do the best I can. Every now and then something will come up. Where'd that come from? But no, I always go back to the truth of who I am. Be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. Be true to yourself.
I have to tell you that the words of Yoda echoed in my mind when you said the reference to try. There is no try. Do
There
or
is
don't
no try.
do or don't do.
Don't try it. Do it.
Do it. Just do it, or don't do it. Your choice. This is to me fascinating in the sense that I must confess to you that I use this program as a form of therapy. Because it allows me to ask questions that may or may not pertain to me. 9 times out of 10, they usually do. And you have really reinforced what I've been saying for years about words having power. However, I haven't been living by those words, that words have power. And I need to make that shift. I need to remove the side view and rear view mirrors from my quote unquote vehicle. Because that seems to me the biggest blockage. And just looking forward and saying, what do I want? Where do I want to be? What do I want to do? And I think that applies obviously to everybody, that we all need to do that according to what you're saying from the Church of Profitsea. Now, I asked you this before we started. You are not the head pastor or minister of the Church of Profitsea, correct?
I am the founding minister.
There we go. Big difference.
Founding minister. But
and what are your services?
I believe we are more about mentorship than membership. It's about teaching by example. And
and is there any particular I like to refer to them as ancient wisdom teachings. Is there any particular writing or what have you and I'm going to be gracious here and say beyond the Church of Prophecy, the book, okay,
Yes.
that we might want to look into after we've read the Church of Prophecy?
In the back of the book, I have a whole list of the books that I've read that got me to where I am today. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Like I said, the most important that really started me on the path was A Course in Miracles. And I've read a lot more, and it just keeps, as a matter of fact, I have read more since the book came out.
Mm.
The Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, Science of Mind books. I didn't read that until after the Church of Prophecy was published. And that's been absolutely blowing my mind every day that I get into that stuff. It's never ending.
Yeah.
We're all evolving, all of
Mhm.
us. And it's a lot more fun when we do it together.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that I love is, of course, listening to books. Now, I was listening to books long before Audible ever came along. As a kid growing up, being legally blind, I was listening to recordings and talking books for the blind. One is textbooks, the other is pleasure reading. And that's where I was introduced to what I consider my metaphysical primer, Autobiography of a Yogi. And I have Audible on my phone. I have on Audible, I have Course in Miracles, as well as many of Paramahansa's books. They are Chardin, I guess, and so forth. Now I've got to make sure that I have this other gentleman separated, if I've got it correct. Teilhard. That's Teilhard de Chardin, I believe. But there was one
Yes.
other philosopher as well. And I was introduced to them through the 0 Point and some of the personal growth programs I went through in the 90s, which were very fascinating. But it's like, do you find that as you go through this process and you're reading more and more and more, that one builds upon the next, or maybe reinforces what you've been talking about all along, or do you find that some of these actually really reveal to you something maybe that just reinforces what you have
That's
been
what it does.
dealing
It
with?
reinforces, and this is what I'm saying, that we all know this inside. We
Mm-hmm.
all know this information. We have it. We know it. It's just all the reading I have done in the last 47 years has just confirmed what I already know.
And by the way, when you say 47 years, that puts you back to about 1977.
1976, I was 30
76.
years old. I was 30 years old when I had my first spiritual experience, and it has been a wild ride ever since then.
Well, my mother asked me once if I'd ever had any spiritual experiences or supernatural for that matter. And I said, well, if I have, I don't know that I didn't know at the time that that's what they were. I look at Jesus, for example, and all of the experiences that he had, all of the miracles that he performed, et cetera, et cetera. And the first thing that goes through my mind is, well, that was normal for him. He knew he could do those things. Do you feel that that sometimes even maybe before you had that first recognizable experience that began you down this path 47 years ago, that maybe you were having them, you didn't see them as such?
Carl Jung has a quote that I love so much.
Mm-hmm.
He said that everything that happens to us before we're 40 is just research, right? And
Oh,
that's what I feel the first 30 years of my life was. It was just research.
wow.
I was ready for it when it came.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, I am thankful and grateful not only for you being on the program, but also for all of the steps that I have taken along my path that have brought me here to you. I've often said that you've heard the phrase about, all of the choices that we've made in the past have brought us to where we are, and all of the choices that we will make from this point forward will take us where we will be in the future. To which one of my guests said, well, let me add something to that. He says, the choices that you will make today and tomorrow and the next day are going to be based upon your perception of what you think the future will be. And so it
Very
seems
perceptive.
to me,
Yes.
yeah, it seems to me that our thoughts are also very important in terms of that. For example, that example of, okay, what do I think? Do I think that we're going to be annihilated? It's Armageddon. It's, the second coming, etc. Well, then I think I'm going to dig a hole in the ground with a bunker and all this kind of stuff so I can survive. It's like, why would you want to? I'm an optimist. I don't think all of that's going to happen. I'd like to think that we're going to clean up the place, and we're going to polish up the place, and we're going to make it look great. And we're going to do the same thing on the inside that we're doing on the outside. Is that your feeling too?
I know it.
You know it. Oh, hey, well,
I know it. I know it. It's the way this time-space reality is our playground.
mm-hmm.
This time-space, this world was not created. Let's put it this world was not created for me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When I came in to this world, it is my playground. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. It's all about evolution. It's all about choices. It's all about which way do I want to go, this way or that way. And there's no wrong choices. You know why? Because we never get it done. We're eternal vibrational beings. Just keep on choosing and have fun.
Yeah. The only thing that again, accepting perception is the reality. The only thing that is not is this physical life. It's like a puff of smoke. But the important part of who we are is eternal. That essence, that soul, that which animates the body, which perplexes me to no end. It's like, wow, this is, I have a vague understanding of how they get the internal combustion engine to work. I think the guy that invented the carburetor had way too much time on his hands, because I've seen some of those, and unbelievable. But the human body with the circulatory and the nervous system and et al., who came up with this? This is incredible. It's amazing, So I am so thankful that you've been a part of what we're doing here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, and we've been talking with Karen Seeley here on the program, Tell Me Your Story, talking about the Church of Profitsea. We are going to tell you once again that, number one, will be linked to her website. That website, by the way, is churchofprofitsea.com, and Profitsea is Profitsea. And I can't thank you enough for being a part of the work that we are doing here to help to, again, going back to what you've said many times, making this world a better place for all. I'm just going to leave that phrase right there, for all. And I'm hoping that we can have you come back and we can talk more about maybe some of the other things that you have chosen to create in your life, and the growth that we're all, I believe that we're all, in one sense, all seeking some kind of growth. I mean, isn't that why we go to school, or we're sent to school, I should say, is to broaden our horizons intellectually? Well, seems like you're helping us to do that on a spiritual level as well. Thank you.
Richard, I would just like to say, if I've convinced anybody to try meditation, on my website, under the video tab, there are 3 audio meditations that I think are awesome.
I am there. I am there. I can walk or drive over to the beach, sit on the pier or on the beach itself, and put the earbud in my ear and do just that. And that would be a lot of fun. I mentioned those 3 final questions that I ask everybody. Well, I'm going to ask you those 3 final questions. But before I do that, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and then Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., and we stream live at those times on at richarddugan.com. That's right. And we also podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many other locations. We're also on YouTube, where you can watch these conversations, and I hope that you will. I hope you'll subscribe. As I've said before, the numbers are not relevant, even though I may mention them from time to time. I just looked, and as of this conversation, we're over 110,000 listens since January of 2018. I've said it before. I don't know what that means, other than we've had a lot of people listening to the programs, and that's really what it's all about, is to get this information out to folks. We ask you to click notification as well, so that the next time I post a conversation, you'll know about it and you can go and listen. We ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we would be gratefully appreciated. We do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And as our special guest here, Karen Seeley, has already stated, we encourage you during this decade of perfect vision, talk about perception, the 2020s, spend some time going within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listening to that still small voice. And we hope that you will. And go to her website, churchofprofitsea.com, to the videos page, and you can listen to and meditate with some of the audio files that she has posted, audio meditations that she has available on the website. With all of that being said, we now move to our final three questions. And the first of those three questions is, who is Karen Seeley?
I would prefer, what is Karen Seeley?
Oh.
I am pure, positive, non-physical, God force, source, love, energy. I am in this time-space reality for the purpose of expanding the universe. Tomorrow is going to be better, brighter, and brighter because of my focus today.
What is it that gets you out of bed?
Oh, the thought that today is going to be the best day of my life.
And to that, what was your best day?
The best day of my life was November 22nd, 1963. It was the day I found out I was pregnant. It was also the day John F. Kennedy was assassinated.
Heavens.
I was floating on air. It was as if God had presented me with a very special gift, and that gift keeps on giving every day of my life.
Karen Seeley, the founding minister of the Church of Profitsea, the author of the book, The Church of Profitsea. We certainly hope that you will get yourself a copy of it. And this book is, of course, a new Trinity: happy, healthy, and wealthy, available at Amazon. And we certainly hope that you will also go to Church of Prophecy, the church. No, it is churchofprophecy.com. Profitsea.com will be linked, as I said, Karen, to your website. And again, thank you so much for being with us. And I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast. Love to Lal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy, because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.